shall I render to the Lord for all his bounty to me?
Welcome to Veiled in Grace. I'm Kira.
And I'm Anna. We are Cradle Orthodox Christians
And we're here to talk about what it's like to be Orthodox women.
in a very non-Orthodox world.
And that's the truth. So I'm so excited to be here today. This is take 7 million of our first podcast episode. And I'm really excited for everyone to see where we're going to be going with this podcast. So I guess looking back, I'm going to share this. Can I just share stories that I've already shared? We just shared the story from last time. Back in January, you texted me randomly. I mean, we text often, but the topic was very random because you just sent a message that said, hey, I'm thinking of having a women's round table thing, I think was kind of where you went with it.
Yeah, like an Orthodox women's round table.
And I was like The View?
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, exactly.
Orthodox view.
Like The View. And I'm like, okay, so how are you going to coordinate, me being the type of, type A that I am, I'm like, how are you going to coordinate having something with a bunch of people all the time? And you were like, well, actually, maybe more just like a podcast because I kind of want us to do something. And I was like, okay, cool. So a podcast. And then 2 days later, Anna was like, I found all of this equipment. Let's do it.
Let's face it, I didn't find anything. My husband did.
Okay, your husband, I mean, it took a matter of 2 days, I think, from me telling you, cool, let's do that. You're like, let's get everything and let's do it. And here we are. So Anna and I have somewhat similar backgrounds, but I wanted you to talk a little bit about what Orthodoxy is, because this podcast, this everything, is really like an Orthodox women's lifestyle podcast. Like, we are going to be sharing our life, and we want other people to feel like they are sitting right here at our little round table that we don't have
Right
here at our join us at our little microphone stand table as we talk about Orthodoxy and what it's like to be Orthodox mothers and wives and women and all of the intricacies that come with it. But for some people that are tuning in, they might not even know what Orthodoxy is. And we as Orthodox Christians also want to spread the word. So can you tell us a little bit about what Orthodoxy is and about the church history?
Yeah, very briefly, because this could go on forever. The Orthodox Church was founded in the year 33 AD by the apostles, and they handed it down to the bishops that they appointed, and then those bishops appointed, and so on for the last 2,000 years. And so here we are.
The ancient faith.
The ancient faith. And so our bishops, we do have bishops, and they have handed down this faith to us. And
which is amazing. That is always what blows my mind when I'm thinking of the priesthood in particular. And every priest, while he might not carry it around in his back pocket, can find basically his lineage. Like, he can find by the laying of hands of ordination who ordained him and who ordained the person that ordained him and who ordained the person that ordained him, all the way back to the apostles.
I've never really thought of it.
Really?
Like that. Yeah. Not the priests, like bishops I do, but not necessarily.
Yeah, but
my own parish priest.
Like your own parish priest, which I'm sure they've looked at some point in time, like on record, can trace everything back to the apostles, which is just amazing for me to think about.
Yeah.
I know, it gives me chills too. For the women and anyone that's watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, you don't need to be an Orthodox Christian to tune in and listen to it. Maybe this will draw you closer to the faith. Maybe you're interested in Orthodoxy or what it's like, or you're
just curious.
Yeah, or you're just like an Orthodox woman and you're looking for someone that's relatable to you, that lives life how you live life and might give you examples, and hopefully we can learn from you. They can give us some advice and feedback about things that they do in their own homes. But we have an interesting background that in America, not as many people have nowadays, and that is that we are cradle Orthodox Christians. And for anyone that has not heard that term before, it's used in the Orthodox community to refer to people that were born and baptized into the faith as an infant. And I was born and baptized in the church that my dad was born and baptized into, which is amazing. And my grandfather was born and baptized into. And before that, the church was formed in the United States.
Wow.
So we kind of follow it back the 100+ years. But we live in a society where we have a lot of converts, which are people that have come from other religious backgrounds and then been baptized as either a teenager, like my husband's family is all converts, so they were all baptized into the faith, and people that even as adults were baptized into the faith. So it sets us aside in this little group of people that have experience growing up as Orthodox children, and we're raising Orthodox children now. So we get the little glimpse of comparing their life to our life.
So if you are feeling like you want to learn more, we will share a link below to a good Orthodox online research. But honestly, the best way of learning about...
You don't have your PhD, Anna, to talk to us about Orthodoxy?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't
Your
expect
MDiv?
apologetics or like deep theology with us. We know
The truth of things.
yes, but we haven't dug that deep. But yeah, so we can share links, but the best way is to go visit your local Orthodox church and just talk to the priest.
Come and see.
Come and see.
Which is really exciting. Can you talk about when you were baptized and what it was like for you and maybe what area you were in?
So I was obviously born and baptized. I have no idea at what age. Like I was an infant, but I don't know. I don't know if it was
young.
yes, but I don't know if I was like right at the 40-day mark or I don't really know. I should have done more research on that.
I don't know either.
So I was baptized in an OCA church, which is stands for Orthodox Church of America, and it was a real small, considered basically a mission, and that's where I was at for the first until like 9th grade. And unfortunately, our priest left, and the diocese had to shut it down, and then we had to switch churches. But my dad was cradle Orthodox, or is cradle Orthodox. My mom converted from Roman Catholicism. And then, so my dad's parents are both cradle Orthodox, and so on in their family. My grandmother is from Ukraine, and my grandfather is from Slovakia. And their parents, and actually I think it's my grandpa's parents, or maybe his great-grandparents, and my grandma's parents, because she was the baby of 15 children, so there was a big age difference in their parents. But they were founders of their church in central Pennsylvania.
Which is really cool for people that are cradle Orthodox, because if you think back, if you were baptized and you didn't move, like it's one thing to be cradle, it's another thing to be in the same church that your family was in so many years ago, and then think back to like, well, when this church was founded here, my family was here.
Yeah.
Like my family came from Slovakia too. My dad's only, I think it would be considered second generation in America. So
Wow.
a really recent history.
Right.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. No, I know. I love hearing about my dad's stories, and even my grandmother and my grandfather. Like, they're still alive. Thank the Lord. They're in their 90s and still alive. So I get to still hear stories of their lives growing up in the church and in the faith.
I take deep breaths to not get sad whenever I walk into the church and there's a new family that has taken the seat area of where my Bubba sat. And I'm like, that's where my Bubba sat. Like, that's her spot.
Yeah.
And then her wheelchair went there. So this is her spot. I'm sorry, no one can sit here because this is her spot. Like at the funeral when we're at the church, and we were like, our whole family is like trying to all stand in the spot that she stood in because we're like, this is her spot. So
yeah, that's really special to
I don't think I have a spot nowadays. So
all over chasing children.
the church is my spot. Here, there.
So what about, you said your dad's from Slovakia? No,
His family.
his family.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so my mom converted to Orthodoxy. So your mom also converted to Orthodoxy. My mom converted from, she was Lutheran. She was baptized in a Lutheran church. And my mom was actually seeking a new church, not just a new church, but digging deeper into things, I guess you could say, at the time that she met my dad. And so it kind of like aligned. Like she had pretty much found Orthodoxy at the same time that she had met my dad. And then him being Orthodox, like it made it all work out. So she came into the faith. And so then my sisters and I grew up in the church just like my dad did. And
Yeah, it's similar with my mom, since she was raised Roman Catholic, and she was starting to not really like where it was going. And instruments were being introduced into the church, and her dad didn't really like it. So I think they might have even just stopped going to church altogether, but she was definitely searching. So then it wasn't until she went to my dad's cousin's wedding in an Orthodox church that she was like, oh my gosh, this is it.
That's interesting that
this is
her
what I've been
whole
looking for.
family had like stepped away from it. So it wasn't just her. It was like her and her family, like when she was younger.
At the time, yeah. I mean, she went to Catholic schools the whole time. And once I was older, my grandma would occasionally still go to church, but not quite as devoted to the Catholic Church as they might be once were after all the changes.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, I mean, one of many interesting things about the Orthodox Church is how unique and different it is from basically everything else. But I'm wondering if you like can remember the moment that you were like, whoa, my church is different than their church, or if you have like any distinct memories of something that was different.
I don't know that I could say a certain age. It was probably once I started going to school and started being around other kids who were not Orthodox.
Yeah,
you know?
like the meme of like the kid that's like standing in line with his arms crossed when they line up to go in the hallway.
I haven't
Have you-
seen
What?
that. No.
That's an old thing floating around. It's like a photo of a bunch of children in elementary school, and the teacher's like, okay, everybody line up to go to the water fountain. And there's like a bunch of kids in line, like 5, 6 kids in line. And then there's the Orthodox kid standing there with his arms crossed in line. And you're like, tell me which one is the Orthodox child.
I haven't seen that, but I believe it.
I'll have to send it to you. It's totally something that I could see my children doing. And I'm our church school director. So I went to school for teaching and I have my teaching degree, and I kind of fell into the role. So I do a lot of curriculum writing, and in the midst of all of it, I've taught many of our church school classes. Like I don't full-time teach them since I do all of the outside administrative stuff, but I step in for people. And I remember when I first started writing curriculum and then having like teaching one of that's like, let's try it out sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, now we're going to raise your hand if you can tell me this, or if you want to share this. And they're like looking at me, and like the one child that goes to public school is like sitting there with his hand up staring at all of the other kids around him that are like, why do they keep screaming when I'm trying to talk? Like I have my hand in the air because we gave the directive of you raise your hand if you'd like to do this, but then I didn't give the second step of like you raise your hand and then you don't say anything
Before speaking.
It's like when you like my 2-year-old, he's like raises his hand and then blurts out what he wants to say at the same time.
Yeah, definitely a learning curve. So what are some obvious differences that both of us that we experienced that made us feel different,
like
and growing up Orthodox?
So my mom talked a lot about when she was young, part of their like church school curriculum at her Lutheran church was visiting other churches and like just learning about the faith. And I know we actually have some like younger 20s-ish people that come here every so often to just like see what it's like as part of their churches. go and learn. And then we just pray that they keep coming back. But my mom had shared that that was part of like what they did. And so she talked to us a lot about that. And I wouldn't say that we went to a lot of other churches because it just wasn't ingrained in like my church school curriculum, but my parents did talk about other churches often. So it's hard for me to like think of the specifics that were different because sometimes some of them I didn't see, like some of them I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Like but part of that was that I got to talk to my friends about it. And sometimes I know come and see is what we say, and they probably think the same thing. But sometimes hearing it firsthand from someone in their own words as to what their church is like, that tells a lot about it. I had a very close friend who was Roman Catholic, and she often asked me questions, which then would prompt me to ask her questions about her church. And it honestly wasn't even until she got married about a year ago that I had first gone to a Catholic church. I'd actually never been. And then the wedding came up and we went to the wedding and I was like, well, this was pretty underwhelming because it was my first real glimpse of the differences.
Yeah.
Like, so what do you see when you walk into a church, Anna?
Icons.
Icons, what are those?
Oh gosh.
Let me put her on the spot.
Yeah,
describe.
icons
They're
are
windows to heaven.
Yeah,
Anna.
windows to heaven is the most common way to explain it, but it's images of Christ and the apostles and all of the saints who have gone before us, who we consider like his holy friends. They were so close and devoted to him that and they were so holy that people were so drawn to them and would visit them, would be healed by them. And
it's what we all aspire to be.
Yes, what we all aspire to be, and our children, and everyone can be called to sainthood. So we have icons, which those are icons, and we consider it we call it that they are written, not painted, and special prayers are done or said while the iconographer is writing them.
And a lot of times they'll depict stories of their life too.
There's a lot of symbolism in the different aspects.
And symbolism. While we're on icons, this is
Saint
Blessed
Olga.
Olga of Alaska, because this was actually before she was canonized.
Which is actually officially happening
this
month.
year.
This month, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
In Alaska.
When Anna suggested that we go to it, and I'm like, yeah, I just need a $6,000 donation. Then I'll be there. It would totally be a blessing to be there. I'm so jealous of everyone that gets to go to it. But
we'll watch the live stream.
Yeah. That's where we're living our life. This is the icon of St. Olga of Alaska, and there's a I guess also I'll say the other one back here. This is the icon of Christ with the children, and
when he says, let the children come to me.
Yeah, kind of explains himself. Jesus loves children. He loves them from conception. We won't get on abortion right now, but, and even before. But the icon of St. Olga of Alaska we have here for a very special reason, and it's because it's who we have chosen to be the patron saint of our podcast. Do you want to share a little bit about why we chose St. Olga?
Yeah, so we were trying to figure out, okay, we need a patron saint.
Just like how we try to figure out a name.
Yes, but we did not search ChatGPT for that. We prayed about that one.
We prayed about this one.
No, we prayed about the name too,
ChatGPT
and it
did
led
not
us to
give
AI.
us a patron saint.
But so we actually both came, like when we both were texting, and we both came up with St. Olga of Alaska. So we're like, okay, I guess.
Basically at the same time.
Yeah,
I think we texted each other the same day about it.
So
we
we
said
figured
about it.
that must mean that that's a sign. And so she was a matushka, which means the mother or the priest's wife, but it's matushka means mother in Russian. And so she was a priest's wife, and she birthed 13 children, 8 of whom she raised to adulthood. And her husband was not a Christian when they first got married. I think it was an arranged marriage. And she was an Aleut in Alaska. And he eventually, because of her prayers and devotion for him, he converted to Orthodoxy because she was baptized Orthodox as a child. And so he was baptized and eventually ordained a priest. And then she obviously became a priest's wife. So then she also was a midwife, and that's a special bond that Kira and I have since we both had midwives for our home births, and actually the same midwife. And she also would help women who were abused or in difficult situations. They would come to her. She would use the teachings of the church along with traditional medicine, holistic medicine, to help people heal from their trauma. And then she eventually, she passed away of terminal cancer, but right before she did, she received Holy Communion and crossed herself and passed away peacefully, which is how we pray that we will go. And then she was buried in her wedding dress, which I think is just so sweet. And I plan to do that.
I want that in my life.
I plan to do that. And
do we?
Like we said, even if it doesn't,
I wonder.
Fit.
Yeah, I'm like, will it zip?
So we're just gonna be laying on our back. So I guess it doesn't have to zip. It can just.
I'm just gonna lay there, just lay my wedding dress on me, like pin it down in the sides, so that way I feel like my mother who bought that dress is getting her money's worth because I went to eternity in it. So
that's funny.
I honestly don't think that I would zip. I think about this sometimes. I walk down my hallway and I see my wedding photo and I'm like, I love that dress.
Yeah.
It's in my basement. I should go put it on. And I'm like, I'm going to be really disappointed when it doesn't zip up and it doesn't fit.
I know. No, and I recently saw pictures from my mom's wedding and her dress was so beautiful, this lace. I was like, Mom, where is this dress? I totally would have worn this dress.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? Although she was in October and so it was long sleeve and mine was in
Yeah,
August and just too hot. But it was really beautiful. Or at least I could have like cut the sleeves
doesn't know
off
where
or
it is?
something. I don't know. I don't think
My mom
so.
has hers in like a preserved box.
I wanted to do that,
but I did try it on
Oh.
before my wedding.
I know some people like remake the dress. They have it like redesigned for them.
Yeah.
Or use pieces of it.
I liked it. I mean, I don't remember the specific reason why I didn't wear it. And I think it fit me too. I think my mom was skinnier actually than I was at the time. But I think I sucked in and I think it worked.
So anyways, after she passed, people still prayed to her and found healing from her through miracles. And so now that was in, I think, 1979 when she passed. And
which really makes her a modern saint because that's a lot of, which is something to go off on for a minute. A lot of people that come to Orthodoxy or hear about Orthodoxy struggle with the fact that we have first of all, that we have saints.
And then that we have icons.
And that we have icons that are not Jesus, we understand. But they struggle with the fact that they're like, okay, you have all of these saintly people and you're reading all of these stories, but they're people from how many years ago?
It's just like a fairy tale.
Yeah, it's just like a fairy tale made up story of, all of the things. In the same way that the Bible, sometimes the stories seem so extravagant that you can't even wrap your brain around how it happened. But a lot of these saints have very similar stories of miraculous things that happened to them. And I mean, even Saint Zosimus and Saint Mary of Egypt, and having, a giant lion dig the grave for Saint Mary of Egypt, like the crazy stories. But then as we get closer to today's day and age, we think, oh, well, where have the holy people gone or where whatever. But the thing to explain to people that are new to Orthodoxy is that they don't take canonization of a saint lightly. They're not just like, oh, that was a holy person, let's just elevate them to the sainthood, because it's a collective decision. It's not like one person that just decides.
It's not as like organized as the Catholic decisions for their saints either. It is an energy. It is miracles have occurred. It
Like
is
them coming to the people and being like, hi,
the people
I,
basically say, this is a saint because they've helped me. And that person has
or
helped
they've
so
said that
many.
they wanted to be a saint. They've come to someone and they've told them. I think of Saint Eleni, and she was martyred with, I'm gonna forget who exactly it was, but I believe it was she was either went by Susanna or with someone Susanna, and she was like the cousin living in the household with people that were martyred, and all of the people who were martyred, killed for Christ in one way or another, they were elevated to the sainthood because of the miracles and the other things that they did. And Saint Eleni is considered also a modern day saint because I think it was only in the 80s that she came to an Orthodox woman in visions time and time again and had said, hi, I'm forgotten.
Oh, so like after she passed,
Yeah.
people were having visions of
Like
her.
this one particular woman on many instances had visions of her coming and was like, hey, I was also killed. None of you remember me. So just saying, sort of thing.
Wow.
And her vision came again, and the lady, her last name was like Basiliki or something like that, but she had another vision which in the Orthodox Church, we really are careful where we walk with like visions because
they could be of the evil one.
exactly. So you want to be careful and tread lightly with dreams and visions and things like that. But so she was nervous. She was like, I don't believe this. And then it happened again. They had walked out of like an altar in this vision and she made the sign of the cross. And when she made the sign of the cross, she was like, okay, if this is of the evil one, this will disperse and this will not be a thing. And she made the sign of the cross and it was there. It was true. And then she, I believe, had even expressed to her in one of the dreams like where she was buried at, and then they went and found her relics of where she was buried at. So it wasn't just this like made up story. Yeah, it's I mean, this was really, I think, in like the 80s, so this is not that old of a story. But the same thing with Saint Olga Velasca is that sometimes it just comes to people and they realize, but it does take a little bit of time. So it's like,
right, this was
someone
79.
that died, someone that died this year that might be a saint.
Right, like Elder Ephraim, he passed away in 2019. So this was very recently.
Yes.
And many people feel he will be canonized as saint. When that will happen, we don't know.
Exactly.
But
sometimes many, many, many years after.
Right.
So
that was 79 and here we are in 2025. So that's 46 years. Math. Somebody do math for me.
It is late at night. I mean, it's not that late, but math.
Yeah, so 46 years, almost 50 years later,
yeah,
she's finally being canonized.
But it's part of why we resonated with her, because it can be hard at times, like, to think back to a saint that lived in a different time than you do and relate your life to them. And oftentimes people will feel drawn towards a particular saint. And so she's one of those that I think, because she was more modern, I guess you could say, that was one of the things that drew us into her, or at least for me. I mean, I just prayed about it and I was like, well,
it just came to me. Yeah. We prayed.
It doesn't happen often for me. We talked about this. It's just a feeling, but Anna's trying to get me to connect to my deeper feelings more and trust.
She tries to say God doesn't talk to her, and I'm telling her he does.
She's
just not listening closely enough
to me. I didn't say that he doesn't talk to me. I just don't hear them as clearly as I feel like I need to hear them. Like, I am the type of person that I want to just be like, God, tell me
what to do.
Everything that I need to do in my life. Just tell me when I'm supposed to have children, and tell me when I'm supposed to, get married, and tell me what I'm supposed to have for dinner tomorrow night, and just I know I'm supposed to put the work in.
Honestly, we're supposed to be praying ceaselessly, and
yes.
So you should be praying about all the things, and so that way every decision you make is of God, and he's telling you right there.
Well, I've tried to come to the realization that, which is hard to get to, that even the unanswered prayers, or at least what we feel are unanswered prayers, are not in vain. They're not, they mean something. The unanswered prayers are still,
Are not technically unanswered.
yes, they're heard. Just because they might not be answered to my standard doesn't mean that they aren't heard.
Right.
So peace can come in ways that we don't realize.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard. That's hard for me because you've talked a lot about how
I have a
Anna-
should voice, I
Anna
call
has
it.
the should voice because God talks to her all the time. Hold on, give me a second to put this icon back. But
So yeah, so she was the first North American woman to be canonized a saint.
so you mentioned earlier also that we are part of the OCA, which is the Orthodox Church in America, which also is new. That's like I think also in the 80s sort of thing. So Orthodoxy is still very young in America, I guess you could say. It was really only brought to America 200-ish, right?
Late 1700s.
200-ish years ago, with Saint Herman of Alaska being one of those key, saints that brought Orthodoxy here. And our church was, all of the individual churches in the OCA were formed by families that had immigrated to America from a variety of different places. But the OCA as a whole tends to, despite being a melting pot, especially in today's day and age, have a more Slavic background, at least from my experience. Like my church, we still sang some hymns in Slavonic growing up, and we still know some hymns in Slavonic. But was your church very like heavily ethnic in the things that you did growing up?
It was also more Slavic. Yeah, we didn't really, unless it was Pascha time.
While we're on the topic of growing up Orthodox, which all of this is kind of about, I'm wondering if you ever had a time in your childhood and teen years that you felt that you questioned your faith, like you questioned being Orthodox because you were surrounded by a lot of people who weren't Orthodox and had never heard of it.
So I never questioned it as far as, should I be Orthodox? Is Orthodoxy the true church? My parents did a good job of
Yeah.
teaching me that. And I always enjoyed going to church my whole life. So I
Did
never
you really?
I really did.
You never fought your parents on going to church?
Not that I can remember.
My dad's going to deny this fact, but when I was a teenager, okay, I'm sorry to pause you, but when I was a teenager, I had my own vehicle. Our church was about 30 minutes away, and I'm a night owl, and I like to sleep, so I didn't want to wake up to go to church on Sunday mornings because other churches, I mean, maybe people are a little more lax about it, but with a lot of Orthodox families, it is usually like you'll go to church when there's church. There's not an argument. Like there's no discussion about it. We go to church when there's church. And so I used to like just roll over in bed and give a nice grunt when my dad was like, "Get up. It's time for church now." And he got to the point that he was like, "So if you don't get up and come to church with us or get yourself to church in your vehicle by the time that it starts, then you have to call the priest and let him know why you didn't come to church today." And you can bet I never did that because that would be terrifying. Like, what teenager wants to call their priest and be like, "Hey, how's it going? I took a nap this morning. That's why I wasn't there."
Yeah.
Definitely not my
No,
thing.
I would even
So you
would
liked it.
I did, and I would even, if I was sleeping over a friend's house and up way too late and even possibly doing things I shouldn't have been doing,
What?
I still would wake up in the morning. I'd set my
You are
alarm.
innocent. Your father was a cop. What are you talking about?
I know. I've confessed everything. So but I would roll out of bed. I'd set my alarm. I'd even, my friend who I'm staying with, they're still sleeping, and my parents would come get me. And even though I had like last night's makeup on still and just probably looked like a train wreck, I still went to church. And you know what? And I would always feel so stressed in school. Always stressed. But when I would get to church, it was literally the only time that I felt completely peaceful. And every time I would listen to the sermon, I'm like, he's speaking to me, directly to me.
I feel
So
that now
I,
still when we're sitting there and I'm like, I feel it in my soul.
yeah.
Both in a good way and in a bad way,
So I
because
wanted to
sometimes
be
it's not
there.
fun.
And even in college, it's hard to get to church in college unless you're living close by or you have a car. I was in New York City for college. Yes, there was lots of Orthodox churches, but none that were like right next door. And so getting there was like public transportation and took forever. So it was hit or miss in college, but I really like, when I studied abroad in Italy, there was, I think, one Orthodox church and it was Russian. So I knew it was either going to be spoken in Italian or Russian. And I was like, so I confess, I
Yeah.
didn't end up going the whole 4 months I was there. But
When I visited Italy, the church that when my sister was studying abroad, the church that we went to, we were in Florence. I don't know if the church was in Florence or where, or if we traveled to it. I was only 13 at the time. But I remember distinctly that they had their gospel reading in English and Italian and Russian. It was also the church that I got yelled at for taking a photo in.
it was an Orthodox church?
Yeah, it was an Orthodox church and it was beautiful. And I tried taking a photo like towards the end of the service, and a very holy man next to me like nudged me and said, "Shh, pray." And I was like, well, for your information, this camera has no shutter sound, so it's not loud. It's just a photo.
It was just taboo.
Yeah, it's just taboo. I mean, it's not like we really ever have our phones out or on in church outside of like maybe a special occasion for a photo. It was like
photo or video for promotional purposes.
I wasn't as holy as I should have been.
Well, and that's the thing. So when I was there and not going to church, I was doing little things that like I knew I shouldn't have been doing. And so I could feel myself pulling away
Church
from
really
God.
centers you.
It does.
Like not just in your life, but in your week.
Right.
Like postpartum, super weird. I actually love the time away from church because it's what makes you miss it. So like I'm sure you felt a little bit of that, but it's like you feel like you get all thrown off. You're like, what day is it today?
Right. Why am I not going to church?
Yeah. Exactly. And
especially if it's like during Lent, when you're going to
yeah,
church many more times in a week, and then all of a sudden you're not going at all. Yeah. That was, well, no, you missed Pascha with
my
was it
second,
the second one?
he was born in April. Yeah. And I
Like
missed
right
Pascha.
before Pascha, yeah.
Yeah. And my third, I was pregnant during Lent because he was born in June.
Okay.
So frustration, super pregnant, really fun. Anna and I were pregnant with our first,
Your first.
my first, and her third at the same time. And back when I didn't have any children on the outside, I could actually still do things like sing in the choir. That doesn't happen much anymore. But we were both singing in the choir, and I think we just like took turns using the little space next to us to like stretch because our bodies hurt so bad. And we're like, we're just gonna just bend over and touch our toes for a minute because everything hurts.
Squats.
We don't want to sit down if we don't have to, but we're just gonna I'm gonna be squatting here singing.
Yeah.
So if you look over and I'm not there, I haven't passed out, I'm just on the floor.
Oh yeah, those aches.
Or you get down on the ground for the prostration and I'm like,
I can't get
I'll
back
be
up.
here.
Yeah.
I'll be here for the next one. Meet you guys there.
Yeah.
Pregnancy and Orthodoxy is a whole new thing. But yes, church, it centers you, I feel like. And college is a really telling time for a lot of people because there's actually now a lot of people that find Orthodoxy while they're in college.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, I was the president of my college's OCF, which is the Orthodox Christian Fellowship, for a couple of years. And I know that draws people in. Like we had planned and we would do a Vespers or some other sort of short service like in the quad in the center of our, grassy area so that people could see and wonder what we were doing. But college, I was kind of the same way. I didn't stop going, but I rode horses growing up and through my college years, and my college had an equestrian team. And just like which I'm sure we will get into, but just like a variety of other sports, Sunday's the day to do things. Why not? Nobody has anything that they're doing on Sundays. So let's make all of our horse shows on Sundays. And I think I rode on the team for a year and a half, and people didn't get to show at every show. We had like a large team, you had to qualify for it, but I got to the point that I would then qualify for it a lot because we could only have a couple people in each division, and it meant that I was like going to horse shows on Sundays, and then it felt weird because you're like guilty, like you should be in church, and then you don't go to church and your week feels off, and it's like the difficulty of becoming an adult where you realize you have to choose. And at the time I had just stopped riding on the team then because I'm like, well, I can't go to church ever, and this feels weird.
Right, and those are the decisions we have to make with sports or
And for
anything.
our own children, we were just talking about this earlier because our kids are starting to get into the ages where they want to do every sport that happens on a Sunday.
And it really, I mean, I guess with horses for you it did, but me growing up, there weren't sports on Sundays.
It wasn't
it
for me
wasn't-
growing up either. It
Yeah.
was just when I got to college.
College age, yeah. And so
That
that's
was-
probably about when it started
Yeah,
switching
I
over.
think that's when it started switching. And now I know even when my siblings, her kids, they do sports, like that is the sports day. Like it is on Sunday. Outside of like my family watching a football game on a Sunday afternoon, like we weren't as children playing sports or doing things on Sunday. Sunday's
Well,
the day that we
because-
do nothing. Ask my dad.
well,
We don't mow the
everybody-
grass. We don't do anything.
The majority of people were going to church on Sunday morning still.
Yeah.
But then culture started changing and people either stopped going to church or they started making more convenient times or days to go to
Well, we
church
just
instead of
started
Sunday
watching
morning.
church online.
And now, yes, now that's
Doesn't that count?
maybe if you're homesick and can't go.
I don't even like that. I don't even like, yeah, COVID. I'm not a fan. Part of Orthodoxy, I'm like dissing the churches that do it for a minute. I don't mean to be rude, but
Live stream.
yeah, like it's nice because it's hard because you get to experience services that you wouldn't get to experience. Like there are, as we talked about icons, there are icons that are weeping, meaning that like to talk about miracles, the icon itself is actually just dripping, like flowing myrrh and, oils.
Yeah.
And it's just miraculous. And the oils then have like healing properties, and people have had all these ailments healed from them. And it's not a common thing. Like there's only, how many weeping icons, and not all of them are continuously weeping. Like at one time there might be an icon that like the Theotokos, the Mother of God, has like a tear that wept, and people can see it and still venerate that icon. But there are some that are constantly flowing, and with a couple of them they will travel around places, but sometimes they're not near you to go and experience it in person. And so I know even recently the one monastery had like streamed so you could see the service, which is really nice. You're getting to experience something from a distance, but at the same time, the whole point of Orthodoxy is that you come and see.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah, online is like any other video you're just watching.
It's like an
online.
introduction.
You're enjoying the music and the prayers, listening to it.
But it is an
But
experience.
it's
You don't
not-
get all the feels that you get
Right.
like when you walk into
You're
an
not
Orthodox church.
worshiping.
You're praying. I mean,
You could be praying
you can be
alongside.
praying. It's not corporate worship. It's not.
Right. Well, and I
My
remember
husband doesn't like that word.
hearing a priest say that live stream should technically just stop either
the
after
litany
the
of the
gospel or
catechumens.
after the catechumens. Either of those.
That's a topic for a whole nother
Yes.
day
Yeah.
where we dive into our thoughts and opinions. While we said that we're not going to be preaching on I guess we didn't say we were going to be preaching. We just said we weren't going to be experts on the topics because neither of us went to seminary.
Yep.
We were Orthodox women. We were raised in the faith. But we do have some strong opinions on things, and our opinions aren't just random willy-nilly opinions. Our opinions on a lot of these things are because they're factually based in the canons
Based
of the
on
church,
the
and they're
canons
based in
and the
the
church
tradition
fathers, yeah.
or the church fathers or all of the important things. It's not like we're pulling it out of nowhere, but the difficulty of it that makes them such hot topics are that people have a hard time accepting that it's not okay, or like what they're doing or what they're believing is not actually what the church as a whole says that we should be doing or believing. So those will be really fun to jump into.
So what are some ways that you knew when you were a child growing up that like were so different from your peers?
Well, first of all, I remember my friends that were Catholic picking what time they were going to go to church at. They were going to go to Mass, and I'm like, you get to do that?
You have a choice?
You can go at 8 or at 11? I want to go at 11. Like, I want to sleep in. Because an Orthodox church that is, like, properly established, they can only serve one liturgy at, like, that altar during the day. So we don't have the choice to, like, go to church at 9 or at 11.
Unless
But
you're going to a totally different church, and they're almost all at 9:30 or at 10 o'clock.
yeah, unless you're going to a different church that has different services. So that was one of the things I remember thinking, like, oh, well, that's nice. And then I also remember, because I said my experience was primarily with people that were Catholic, I remember it being a big point when they have their first communion.
Mm.
It was like the whole celebration because they also had CCD leading up to it, like their study classes for it.
Right.
Like when you become however old, it's
So
time
is
to
it
learn.
first communion and then confirmation, or is it the other way around? There's like two different
I'm
things.
not Catholic.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, both those things
I
were.
haven't studied everything
Yeah.
that extensively. I really should, but
I went to a Catholic high school and a Catholic college.
yeah, I
so
wanted you to talk about what it was like going to a Catholic high school as someone that's Orthodox.
It was refreshing getting out of public school and at least being around teachers and peers and being able to talk about God and have that be a part of the education and the atmosphere. We did have to go to liturgies, and
Masses.
they actually
I thought
actually
they called
think
them
called
mass.
right, but I think they called them liturgies at my high school. Uh so I obviously I couldn't commune, so I would go to
Yeah.
communion.
Were you the
Um,
only one?
No, there was one other girl who was Orthodox at my school.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and she was in my grade. We weren't super close, but we were friendly. It was just nice knowing there was another Orthodox person
Yeah,
there.
the like one other person that's
Yeah.
like you. You know what I know.
So that's the thing. Growing up, yeah, there was like very rare to have somebody else Orthodox. The only other time I had an Orthodox person was on my gymnastics team. One of the girls was Orthodox who went to the other parish. And I just remember we had an out of town gymnastics meet, and it was on the weekend of Old Calendar Christmas, January 7th. And my church celebrated New Calendar, regular Western, December 25th. So she couldn't come to that meet because it was her Christmas. And I just remember
Yeah.
being so like, I love that. That she,
I guess that's something about the OCA is that most of the churches, or at least the ones in our area that are part of the OCA, are on the new calendar. They get to choose, I think.
Yeah, and I do think I
But
remember
there's probably a
hearing
couple-
there was a couple that
There's a
didn't.
couple that aren't,
Yeah.
but a lot of them are. So that was different because I had like extended family members that are also Orthodox, and they celebrate on the old calendar because they're part of ROCOR.
Right. So some Orthodox have different Christmas, and we all typically have a different Pascha, except this year it happened to be the same Easter, same time as Western Easter.
Oh, yeah, I thought you meant as other Orthodox. I was like, no, we all have Pascha at the same time. Orthodox churches. Old
Correct.
calendar and new
Yes,
calendar.
Old Calendar, New Calendar all have the same Pascha together, but it's usually different from Western Easter.
Yeah,
That's what I
that was the other big difference between myself and everyone else, is that my friends were like, it's not your Easter now, is it? I'm
Yeah.
like, no, it's not my Easter now. No one understood why.
Right. I don't know if I even understood why.
I remember the amount of times, like every year leading up to Pascha, I'm like, okay. Especially when I was a teenager and I had access to the internet. I was like, there's a chart out there that explains to you why. And I'd like try to remember so that when people asked me, and then I'd always forget like 2 words into it, and I'd be like,
And I still
because
hear
reasons.
I still hear various reasons, and some people are like, no, that's not why, and other I don't. You're gonna have to
We
look that
just
one
look
up.
at the
Yeah.
calendar.
We just follow the calendar.
We just
And
follow
what the
the
church fathers tell us to
calendar.
do.
What the church fathers tell us to do.
Obedience,
It's why we had a priest that went to seminary, you know? Because we didn't, so we
Yeah,
just
and I
try our
think
best.
fasting also,
Yeah.
we just did fish instead of meat growing up, but that was also just something to, navigate.
Yeah, fasting was really a challenge for me because it was when I was in 7th grade. I was trying to think of the year. Was when I went to a new school for the first time. Got bangs as a haircut. Also, side note, not my style. Never had bangs since then. I sweat way too much for that. But I was the person that just had like the bangs cut to here and they were just like stuck to my face because I was so sweaty, and then I had acne and I had braces, and it was not a fun time. On top
You were
of,
that awkward teenager.
oh yeah.
Me too.
Like I look at my photos. Well, once I was a teenager, I wasn't as awkward looking. It was like 7th and 8th
Tween,
grade.
yeah.
Those tween years. I look back at my picture from 6th grade and I was like, oh, I had like long, beautiful, flowing, curled hair. And then I get to 7th grade and I'm like, with my bangs and my sweaty face and all the things. But when I was in 7th grade was when I was diagnosed with celiac disease. So that was also in the midst of all of the ridiculousness of public school. I had to start eating gluten-free all the time.
And that was before it was popular.
And that was before it was popular, probably like 4 or 5 years before it became a fad. It was like when I was in high school or graduating college, that sort of time, that gluten-free stuff was like the diet to do. Other story. But at the same time, my mom also started eating gluten-free with me too. And fasting was much more difficult at the time when then you have to add gluten-free food into all of it. So
Can't eat all that bread.
yeah,
Carbs.
that was a different experience. But I did have, so I'm blessed in the sense that I come from a very Orthodox family. And I mean, you kind of see it even as an adult now. Like I still get the luxury of just being surrounded by Orthodox people, which it's really hard to explain to someone that's not Orthodox, like sometimes why you do things unless they've actually come. Like sometimes when people come and they see the service and they understand and can put a picture in their brain of what your faith is kind of like, then they understand why you're so different. But trying to explain to someone that is an Orthodox that's never seen anything, they don't understand why you can't just drop whatever and do whatever you want and then just pray about it. And so I have the luxury growing up that a lot of my family was Orthodox because my dad and his siblings and their children, and so we were all the big Orthodox cousins, you know, my big fat Greek, Russian,
Slavic.
family. and my cousins were Orthodox, and so all the people, everyone understood it. When we were getting together and we had a Friday night, you know, potluck or whatever, and it was fasting, that was like you didn't even need to tell people, we already knew. And my mom's side, being a lot of them still Lutheran, they were just very understanding of things. They were very compassionate about it, so it wasn't like a huge deal to them. But even as an adult, and now I'm married, and my husband, like I come from an Orthodox family, and my husband comes from an Orthodox family, and it makes things way easier for us when we have gatherings because both of our parents are like, yep, we'll go to church and then we'll do whatever after, which is something that I don't know if I know you experience it more now. I don't know if you experienced that in high school where you had, like, did you feel isolated, I guess, from your mom's family ever because they weren't Orthodox?
Well, our situation, we don't have any other family in this
Okay.
area. So we were isolated just in
Yeah.
that generally. So in order to go to be with our family, we had to travel regardless. So we
Yeah.
didn't really, like our church family was our family because that's all we had here.
Which is what we have here now, and I
Yeah.
love that. So, growing up, Anna, did you ever have anyone that thought that you were like Jewish or Catholic or anything else? You're like, hey, I'm Orthodox. And I'm like, oh, so Jewish?
So, okay, when I was a child, I didn't get the Jewish really. Most people, yeah, were like, is that Catholic? Or they say, oh, like Greek? It's either Greek or sometimes
Yeah.
Russian. But more often than not, they're like, oh, like Greek Orthodox. Because that's really all they know.
Yeah, kind of like
They know
that.
those two words
Yeah,
put together.
because they go to the Greek festival,
Yeah.
so they know.
But then when I moved to New York City, it's a melting pot. And when I got there and I would say I'm Orthodox, people are like, oh, Jewish? I'm like, no, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
But then it was funny because not only, so anytime I would bartend and cater waiter and waitress, and people would always be, it was the first time in my life that people were like, where are you from? I'd be like, Pennsylvania.
It's the nose.
And they're, and they're like, no,
We
no,
both
no,
have
no,
very
no.
prominent noses.
No, like where's your ethnicity? Like, where's your ethnic background? I'm like, oh, you mean my ethnicity? Let's use proper terms then, because they would be like, what's your
Where you-
nationality?
where you
I'm
from?
American, okay? And so then they're like, are
from the
you
street.
Jewish? And I was like, are you telling me? I'm not gonna say this. It's my nose. So, or people would think I was Middle Eastern, which I thought was
I can see
interesting.
that.
I think because I have like Eastern European background, but I also have tanner skin and the dark hair. So then, especially in the summer, I would look a little more
Yeah, I could see it.
Middle Eastern with like the long nose and
Yeah, and your eyes are
bigger eyes. Yeah.
I could totally see that. That's funny.
Yeah. So,
So sometimes, but more in college than when you were like high school age.
yeah.
I don't think I had, well, no, in high school, I had a couple people I think ask, but I didn't go, like, I find that so interesting that your high school had another Orthodox person at it, because in my graduating class, I had like 725 people, and I don't think any of them were Orthodox. Not that I knew of.
Right. I believe it though.
Yeah, it was a small world.
I mean, I think
had
the only
teens at my
reason,
church, but they didn't live by me. Like, we all traveled 30 minutes to get to church.
and same with us. I mean, our first church was only like a 15-minute drive, but then when we had to switch
Yeah.
to the other church, it's a 35-minute drive that my parents and brothers still make every
Yeah.
Sunday. So it's a
That's
commitment.
long. It
Yeah.
is a commitment. I kind of got used to living 30 minutes away from the church. And then my first house after we got married was 30 minutes away from the church, but we attended church much more frequently. And we're like, this is not going to work. And now we live 7 minutes away.
It's
We're just
awesome.
going to live in the backyard one of these days.
I'm back
I-
to like the 15-minute
Yeah,
distance.
that's not that bad.
Yeah.
I had someone once in Walmart. I don't know. I think they were trying to find a spouse. They just walked up to me. Like, I don't think I had a head covering on or anything. Because, like, sometimes if I leave church on Sunday, I will, like, just leave my head covering on.
Because your hair's a mess, so you might as well just keep it
Yeah.
covered.
This is, like, the only time that my hair is down. I have 3 children under the age of 6 still. So my hair is never down. But I maybe had a head covering on, maybe didn't. I don't think I did, because I don't think it would have pointed anything out to them, because Jewish women usually cover their heads once they are married, or cover their hair. But there was 2 guys actually that seemed like they were Jewish, and they like walked up to me in Walmart and said, "Excuse me, are you Jewish?"
Is it because you had a long skirt on?
Well, yeah, I wear dresses and skirts often.
Interesting. You don't
But it's
look
just 'cause I like
Jewish
dresses.
at all.
I don't know. And I just looked at them and was like, I'm Orthodox. And they were like, Orthodox Jew? No. Orthodox Christian? And then they were just like, okay, have a good day. And then walked away like they were disappointed. And I was
Did
like,
they look Jewish?
yeah.
Okay.
Like, they looked
Oh,
like 2
yeah.
Jewish men. And I'm like, are they trying to, like, I didn't have my kids or my husband with me that day.
Totally.
Like, let's just walk around the store. Are you single? Are you Jewish?
That's one thing I don't miss about not living in New York City, is being able to walk down the street and not get catcalls and
Yeah.
harassed.
I got that in the suburbs, too.
Wild.
I had someone whistle at me while I was pumping gas at a gas station when I was 16 with my mom. My mom was
I
like
believe it.
yelling out the window at them. Like, she got my 16! Leave her alone! I'm sure the way that I dressed didn't help anything, but you know.
That's a learning curve also. Just
We'll
because we
get
were
there.
raised Orthodox doesn't mean we
We-
always acted in Orthodox manner.
Sometimes we just didn't know things. And I think sometimes our parents
Didn't
just
know.
didn't know what they didn't know.
I was rebellious in nature, I'll admit. And I did. Like, I wanted to fit in. So you're already so different. So then,
Yeah.
like, I mean, it was nice going to a Catholic high school and we had uniforms.
My
at
mom was
least-
the super pro uniform.
Oh,
She tried getting my
It was
high
life
school to have-
changing.
Yeah.
I think every school should have uniforms of some sort, like at least
Like a dress
guidelines, a dress
code.
code. Yes.
Well, but
'Cause it makes
but
it so
every school
easy.
has a dress code
Well, and,
and it doesn't get followed.
oh my gosh.
I was in like middle high school at the time that leggings became pants.
Oh. I see. Leggings weren't a thing when I was in high school. Thank
Leggings were
God.
pants.
Yeah.
And so that was a big argument. The administration had to be like, leggings are not pants.
They're
They don't
tights.
count for pants. Yeah. But I mean, when you go to a school that was as big as I did, like who's going to call someone out for wearing leggings?
Yeah.
I got called out once for wearing a skirt that was that my teacher claimed was too short. And I'm like, well, your rule is fingertip length. And I have long legs, so. That reminded me.
That was the rule at our Catholic school too. It had to be below the fingertips. But we also
Well,
could
more
wear
like
pants,
this.
and they were really loose fitting pants. So I just wore those because they were a lot more comfortable. It was almost like sweatpants.
Back to our growing up in the church, since that's what we're here to talk about. Anyway, do you have any funny stories that you can think of that either happened to you or to your sibling or anything?
There was one.
The
So
light bulb went off.
it was Pascha, and our church was a small little, like in an apartment building in downtown in a neighborhood that was progressively getting worse, and today is still pretty bad.
It's not that well. I
That
don't know
neighborhood
exactly
where it was,
I was
yeah.
like, the city as a whole is not that bad.
We were going around, processing around the church on Pascha at midnight. And not obviously, maybe if you don't know. So the priests and the servers wear white robes on Pascha, and everyone's singing and chanting and has candles. And somebody like drove down or was walking on the street, and they're like, "It's the KKK!"
Did anyone respond?
I don't think
You're
so.
obviously like, we're just gonna keep on singing
Yeah.
the angels. They're rejoicing right now.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
What about you?
Well, so I have a lot of stories about just the danger aspect of my church. Like my church wasn't also not a very good. Like there were lots of illegal things happening everywhere around. So that was kind of iffy. But a funny thing that I remember is that my dad and our priest had the same name. And so my sister, for a while there, called my priest Father Daddy because she just assumed that because they had the same name that like
That's so sweet.
that's what you called it. And I was like, that's so cute. And I mean, your priest really we call our priest father because they're meant to be that father figure, and he is a father, so
Yeah.
also different than Catholics. But
Correct.
yeah,
Our priests can marry.
and have families and children.
Obviously, Matushka, priest's
Yeah.
wife.
That's something we'll dive into later because I find that really interesting and really telling, and the whole spiritual father aspect, and it puts people have different perspectives when you're married and when you have children. So,
Yeah.
but that was a funny story that I remember. My dad, I also have funny stories of my dad doing some not so orthodox things with his brothers at church, but I won't share those, Dad, because His
Well, I'm
brother's a
sure my dad
priest.
has stories too. So my dad grew up with like 30 cousins and they were all Orthodox and they all lived in the same
Yeah.
village together. I can only imagine the things
The
that
stories
they,
that he
yeah.
tells me, I'm like, you're talking about the brother that's now a priest? And he's like, yeah,
Hmm.
that one. I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Times were different then.
Yeah, I mean, so what are some of the differences you see in when you were raised Orthodox versus your kids now, how they're being raised Orthodox, without throwing anyone under the bus?
I would not do that. So it's something that I think we're going to dive into in some of our other videos, especially when we get to talking about things like yoga and some of the hot topic things like head coverings. I think that the evolution of the internet and the accessibility of information is bringing about a lot more tradition, like big T tradition from the faith that has been forgotten. That not forgotten by everybody, but that it hasn't really been emphasized or upheld. And growing up, and again, that's why I'm saying it's not really placing blame on people, because for certain things, I think they just didn't know.
Right, because
you
like
don't
we said,
you don't
Orthodoxy
know
in
what you
America
don't
is so
know.
young that it
Yeah.
was just
So our
growing.
parents, like even being raised in the faith, there were certain things that like maybe just weren't properly passed
Yeah.
on, that we have this like, so many Orthodox people from other places of the world that we're now gaining access to because of the internet. And those people, the monks, the nuns, the people that are out there that have been keeping up this tradition are starting to speak out and say, hey, you're falling away. This is not how we used to do things. And that's the beautiful thing about the Orthodox Church, is that it doesn't change. Like what we are doing today and the way that we are worshiping and the environment that we are worshiping in is the same environment that people were worshiping in the time of the
2000 years ago,
apostles. Yeah. So I think that with the evolution of the internet, we're hearing a lot more things. We're also having a lot more books that are being published by
So many more
younger
research or
Orthodox
resources,
people that are doing deep dives into studies into Orthodoxy and into the information surrounding Orthodoxy. And then they're sharing their perspective and advice. And it just wasn't, I mean, times change. So at one point in time,
It wasn't available.
It wasn't available,
Yeah.
and it was kind of taboo also to tell people how they had to do things in their home. And now I was just mentioning to you earlier that I started re-listening to I'm losing my train of thought already. The book, what's the book called?
Charlotte Mason.
No.
Oh, Parenting Toward the Kingdom.
Yeah, I was just telling you earlier how I started, because I couldn't find my book in my house, big surprise there, listening to the audiobook again of Parenting Towards the Kingdom. And I mean, it's a prime example of advice and wisdom being shared, not that it wasn't shared before, but a lot of times, and even in the past however many years since we were children, which is really not that long ago, back then there were not that many books, or at least not that many accessible, that weren't written just by priests or written by like spiritual fathers or church fathers. And now
Now it's by lay people. Some lay people.
Not that everyone should go out and write a book and tell people what to do. And the lay people that are writing books on it are highly supervised also by priests and bishops and other people that are reading their books and saying, yes, what you're saying is true and accurate. So it's not like it's a, information that's coming out that isn't accurate. But I think that's one of the biggest differences between now and raising my children, is that there's a lot of things that I know now as an adult that I had not even heard of as a teenager. And I know we've had that conversation before too, just you and I, of the things that we just didn't know that we needed to know. And as an adult, and I know this will come up again, but as an adult, we are like relearning the faith in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because we knew the liturgy and the Vespers and the services and a little bit of the feast days. When you go to public
Are
school,
we
you don't get
supposed to know
to.
them? We're
you-
supposed to know all those feast days?
Right, right. When you go to public school, you don't experience the feast days necessarily because they're usually during the week.
Yeah,
So you
I
don't
got
end up
pulled out
going
of
to the
school
service.
sometimes.
You got put. I don't.
Did you get pulled out of
I-
school?
Oh, I guess once in a while, but probably. I know.
But, like, on
Holy
Holy
Week.
Friday.
Yes,
Yeah, Holy
Holy Week for sure. But so yeah, feast days, I had to kind of really learn those. And but I feel like, especially for parents today, there's so many resources now that it's like, if you don't know, well, just read the research. Like
Or you feel lost, or you need help, or you anything.
There's
Like
something
there's
there.
something there other than just the word of mouth or the one person that's
and it's
like,
free.
Yeah.
So it's not, you can't use money as an excuse. Like there's really no excuse now that to not be fully immersing your children in the faith and the little church at home.
Yeah.
Whether they go homeschool or public school or private school, whatever. There's certain things every parent can do at home.
A plethora of resources.
I don't know about you. Like, did you grow up reading the Bible at home all the time?
Take your question back.
Right. So I didn't either. But then you
My
listen to
dad
Protestants.
My dad read the Bible every day, a chapter of the Bible every day,
Hmm.
and he still does. And I don't know what happened to us.
Like, why you didn't. Right.
I don't know what happened. I think it was one of those things that, again, it was like, at the time, it was like, just show your children what to do by doing it. But now we kind of know, like, sometimes you have to hand over
involve,
hand
yes.
guide them and sit and do it with them. And
Right. Because that was the same thing with me with morning prayers.
like,
My
not to diss on my
parents-
parents. That's totally inspirational, the fact that my dad has done that and
Right.
still does that.
Yeah. I
But
think
it's
with my
something-
parents and grandparents
Yeah.
and watching them do these certain things, that definitely inspires you. But when you're like a teenager and someone just tells you to do morning prayers, but you're not like
Yeah.
doing it as a family, it takes a lot to like wake up and do that before school
And
or
there's
before and get in
there's
that
the
habit.
fine line that they had to walk of like trying to get us to do things but not forcing us to do things. So I'm sure it was a challenge too, but it's something that even with our children, again, when it comes back to the more resources, I remember telling you recently about the children's Bible reader that I had found online that has basically Orthodox icons depicted with it. And I'm like, this is what I want for my children. This exact children's Bible reader. And I'm going to find it. So I tried searching the internet for it, which at the time, no one would have
out of
been able
print.
to do a
Right.
wonderful,
Oh, right.
no one back 20 years ago would have been able to super easily find the specific Bible that they want because it's Orthodox based unless you happen to have it for sale at a store near you. And I looked and it's out of print, and then I went online and I found someone that lived near a bookstore that had one, and then she went and bought it for me from her church's bookstore, and then she mailed it across the country to me. And like
Wow.
the things that could not have happened
Right.
when we were kids, that we really don't have a lot of excuses now other than our pure laziness, but
Right.
that's just another struggle to walk through.
Yeah.
Especially when you have children, it just makes all of the tasks so much more difficult. But
100%.
I try to remain optimistic that like what I'm doing and what I'm teaching my kids is good and right, and I'm not going to fail them, and
I
that
find
they will
comfort
stay in
when
the
my
church.
kids correct me on like, no, mom, that saint did this. And I was like, oh.
my kids aren't old enough to do that yet, so
Yeah. In a couple of years, they'll start
but they
schooling
will,
you.
yeah, they'll start schooling me, but they will like make observations when we're driving places. And I'm trying to think of the specific instance. We were driving down the street near us, and it was like a sunny day or a rainy day or something noticeable to my child who just turned 4. And he was like, "Hey, why is it a sunny day today?" And I'm like, because the weather just changes. Like, so, I don't remember the exact words I said, but something along the lines of like,
Science.
it just, things change in the way that the atmosphere moves, and it'll produce different weather effects and all the other blah blah blah. And then like the other kid chimes in, the 5-year-old chimes in and is like, no, it's sunny because God decided that it was going to be sunny today. And I was like, that's the right answer. You win.
Touche.
Yeah. Gold star for you. I was like, that is exactly right.
Oh.
So, or when they ask questions, I really want to ask my parents if I asked a lot of questions, because I feel like my kids ask a lot of questions.
I remember asking questions.
I don't remember. My childhood was just a blur. I remember being very active in our church because my dad was our council president. So I did a little bit of all the things, the singing, the offering collection, the communion cloth, the chanting, everything. But I don't remember if I asked a lot of questions. But I know my children ask a lot of questions even when they're really young, and they just want to know why everything works. And, you know, when is Jesus coming back? At a time that we do not know. Well, why don't we know?
Well, yeah, and that's the difference too. So when I was a child and I'd ask my parents a question, they either knew the answer or they had their own assumption,
Yeah.
and that was it. Otherwise, they'd have to remember, try to ask the priest.
You
So a
couldn't
lot
just
of
look it up and
you
know.
couldn't just look it up. Whereas today, I'm like, oh, let's text father or let's look it up. And so, you know, it wasn't so easy growing up. So a lot of things just kind of went unanswered, unfortunately. So I have hope in that aspect of growing the faith that our children, I mean, my oldest, he's 11. And he's like such a missionary already. Like he's always like,
I
"Can you
wonder
come
where
to
he
ch-
gets that from.
Can you come to church with us sometime?" To our friends, and they're like, "Oh, we came to your, events." He's like,
Yeah.
"No, not an event, an actual service."
The real deal. I mean, I
was
want
like,
you to come
"Aw."
to liturgy.
And like he was at ninja class, and he's like, "Mama, the other girl's Orthodox." And I was like, "Really?" I'm like, "Well, who's her parents? Like, can you show me?" And so I introduced myself, but he's like all about like trying to find,
The excitement.
or even if he just sees another child wearing a cross necklace, that brings them such comfort to
I go
know
to
there's other Christians.
I go to our local YMCA, and where we live at, like our closest city here, has a lot of immigrants that have come from the Ukraine, and there's a lot of Orthodox churches in the Ukraine. So I just like walk around when I'm in the pool, and I like look to see if I can see anyone wearing an Orthodox cross. It's like sitting in the steam room with some girls the one day, and they're all speaking Ukrainian, and I'm like, you Orthodox?
Unfortunately,
And
I've
a lot
found
of
that
them are
a lot
not,
of-
though.
They aren't.
Shockingly, a lot of them are not. I know that the internet and Orthodoxy are a pretty hot topic also, and especially with AI coming into things. I think it's our diocese is even hosting a seminar or something like that coming up that's talking about Orthodoxy and AI and all of those sort of things. But I see the ways that we can use it to benefit us and to find new resources, as long as we keep ourselves grounded in what we can always push that to the side and come back to be physically here and with the people in our church. And it's a blessing that our church has a really wonderful community of people, and I think that's what attracts people and helps people stay, is to know that we're not just Orthodox on Sunday. And I guess that's what I want my children to make sure that they know, is that we aren't just Orthodox at liturgy on Sunday. We're Orthodox all the time. You're Orthodox in the way that you treat your friends, and you need to show your faith and your love in how you approach just day-to-day life. So I know it's ever evolving as our children get older, and you've got a few years on me with your kids, so I at least have someone to look to give me advice on where to go and what to teach your children at what time, and answer questions for it, which I really value. But I'm excited for what we have to come. Are you excited?
I am. I'm really excited.
I think we can get to a point where it doesn't take us 2 hours to set up our podcast equipment. And
We're newbies
Yeah.
and not tech savvy.
We're just like newbies at the whole everything. We'll figure out how to plug a microphone in and make sure it's plugged in, and
turned on and working.
how to turn a camera on, and all of those fun things that come with it. So I'm looking forward to our long list of topics that we have coming up and some of the guests that we've talked about coming up. And I think that all of you are going to enjoy it a lot too. So thank you for tuning in to Veiled in Grace, an Orthodox women's lifestyle podcast. If you like what you hear today, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, like the video, send it to a friend, and stick around because I think you're going to like what we have to say.
Yeah, and also if you have any topic suggestions, things that you have questions about, or that you'd like us to delve into, again, not deep theological, more conversational.
Go ask your priest is the answer to
Yes,
everything.
go ask your priest if it's super deep. But leave a comment below with any of those suggestions, and we will try to talk about them.
Please be nice to us in the comments. I don't do well with people saying rude things.
Please
so.
be kind.
Anna has a tough skin. She's
We'll see.
she's gonna read all of the comments, but please be kind to us.
Well, thanks again for tuning in. God bless you.
Watch out.